Hello, my DevNation friends from everywhere in the world. Welcome to another Tech Talk. And you might have guessed by the title, today we're going to be discussing everything about Kubernetes with one of the most brilliant engineers I've ever met, directly from Bengaluru, India. Welcome, Kamesh. So, hello.
Thank you, Edson. Good to meet you all wherever you are.
Yes, good to meet you too. And to our friends here in the audience, thank you very much for watching us. And Kamesh, I can tell you that you're a big YAML fan, aren't you?
Yes, I was a big YAML fan, to be honest. And this session is going to be without YAMLs. That's the funniest part of all this thing.
Okay. Yeah, I'll admit I'm not a big fan of YAML, but luckily I'll be able to watch your session and figure out how I can avoid this painful stuff in my daily job when dealing with Kubernetes.
Absolutely.
So let's see some action. So today, live from Cary, North Carolina and Bengaluru, India, welcome to DevNation.
And thank you, everyone. Thank you, Edson. And good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you are. It's night for me from Bangalore. And today's session is going to be no YAML Kubernetes done the easy way. Okay, so before we get into the agenda, so I want to share my social handles. If you have any questions on the session, comments, feedbacks, most welcome. So here is my social handles. Like you can reach me on GitHub, LinkedIn, and or if you want to drop me an email, I'm happy to take and answer your questions as well there. Right. So the agenda for today is pretty simple, right? I'm not going to use any slides. Okay, I'm not going to use my command line. It's just going to be my browser. That's where I'm going to play all my demos today, right? And but what's all this about, right? So we have been used to Kubernetes just using YAML, right? We just write tons and tons of YAML, and we say, okay, we change the programming model from Kubernetes to Knative, where we reduce the YAML from 70 lines, maybe to 25 lines or 10 lines, right? But still the YAML was there, right? And sometimes even YAML is not available. And even I know the pain points when it was initially started with Kubernetes years back, like how hard it was to write YAML, right? I don't know how to debug this. The technology was new, and I was fighting with that every second to see what was wrong. Beyond the basic Kubernetes fundas, I was also able to not understand the YAML spacing there, right? Luckily, the today's tools will help you to change the tabs to spaces, but still it's a pain point, right? As Edson was saying, he doesn't like YAML, right? I know everybody, I see a lot of Twitter feeds where people say, okay, I don't like YAMLs. But how we are going to do today, that's something which I'm going to share with you guys, right? So what we do today is like this pretty simple agenda as you see on my screen. I'm going to show you about the admin and developer perspective of OpenShift. Okay, that's going to be our no YAML platform. Okay, I'll show you how we do. Okay, and then we'll deploy a container from a container image. It's a very simple container image, and we'll see what are the other ways we deploy our thing, right? Using GitHub repository, deploy a database and connect, and then see how it works. We'll try to see if I can able to fire up a Tecton trigger to run a pipeline as well, and in fact some Knative as well. Let me see, I have 30 minutes on my thing. I'll try to see if I can cover all these points, If not, I'll come back again for another DevNation session. Okay. With that, let's jump straight. Okay. So with OpenShift, the very first thing I'm going to show you is like you're seeing my OpenShift screen right here. So as I said earlier, I'm not going to use any YAML for any case, right? So let me refresh my screen to see everything looks good. All right. So my screen gets refreshed. I'm going to go to my topology view, right? Now it presents you with all these options. Okay. I was saying this is the developer perspective. So I'm a developer. So I'm just going to play around everything here. Maybe jump a little bit on the administrative perspective to show you what it means. The administrative perspective is basically gives you all the administrative stuff. Okay. From starting to administration, cluster management, compute management, etc., to whatever you want. So that's going to be your basic administration, right? It's coming differently from what you see in the earlier versions of OpenShift, where everything was put together. We made a change on OpenShift 4. We changed these two things and brought an administrator and developer perspective to our applications. So now as a developer, and for this today's session, is just going to be developer perspective, nothing else other than this. All right. So on this, I have a topology where I have various options to deploy my application from. Okay, I can deploy from Git. We'll see about Git. I from dev file, YAML. Okay, no YAML. Okay, so Docker file, no Docker file also. From a catalog, maybe we'll try an operator backend, something else, and we'll try a few more things as well, right? But I'll try to keep things to container and GitHub repository for today's session because that's the time span I have. All right. To get started, let's click, right? So, okay, I have an image. Okay, so I want to go deploy the image from there. Okay, how do I do that? No YAML stuff. Just go right here. And then let me go find one image. I just put something on the history so that I don't need to type. So this is a Hello World thing. It's a Knative stuff. We'll deploy the Knative again later. All right. So this is what you have right now. And then I'm going to call this as Knative tutorial. I'm just say Hello World app. Okay. And let me also call this again as Hello World here. Okay, the name also Hello World. And then you have options like deployment config Knative service. But first we'll try with deployment, right? So what we basically did right now is I'm picking up something from here, a Quarkus. Okay, let me also do this. Beautify my application, giving Quarkus icon to it. Okay, just for fun. And then I just named the application to be Hello World app. And then I gave another name, right? Application. I'll tell you about application name and the name, right? So, but bear it in mind, this is what your deployment name usually given the YAML. Okay. And then I click on the deployment and I'm not going to do anything. I also want to create a route. Okay. So just so that I can access my application from within. And that's it. That's pretty much it. And then I click. Okay. And you should see my application coming up in a fraction of seconds on my screen, right? There you go, right? Your Quarkus app. That's Hello World Quarkus app. Basically, that's going to come up here. And then it's going to say a few seconds while it's pulling up the content image. And then if you see this bigger circle here, this is nothing but application grouping that basically happens. I can group set of applications together to make me logically fit things, right? You'll see about that during the other part of demo. And that's pretty much it, right? I have my application deployed right now in fraction of seconds without writing, no YAML, right? I also have a route created. I hope probably the problem here is that I use pretty much a certificate. So sadly, I have to go back to YAML to say that don't use TLS termination, right? Because my application is not, okay, I'll just do H because I use some certificate. So this is, but don't worry on that. Okay, I have to somehow touch that. And now if you open this, you should see my application giving you hello greeter, right? So you'll be wondering why, because my application which I'm running runs on 8080 port, which is not an HTTPS port. So because of that, OpenShift will not allow you to send the traffic inside because it's insecure. So I have to go allow that. That's what I did. Okay, I might be doing that little touch here and there so that you see the application. So now my application is up and running in fraction of seconds just from container image. All right. So let's go back to our agenda and see. Okay, we just saw about administrative and developer perspective. I deployed a container as well. All right. And now this is something which I don't want to do. Right. Let me go and delete this one. Okay, delete my application and say this is what ask you hello world app. Deleted. Now in a traditional world, what we basically do is like I want to deploy an application from a GitHub repository. I'm just going to close this one. Okay, so I have a simple Fruits app. Probably I will put this application on the chat later before the end of the session so that you can just try this app from your clusters as well. I'm just going to copy this thing right here. I'm going to paste it Sorry about that. I'll just do D&D so that no disturbances come for me. So, and then I'm going to go to GitHub repository and paste the URL here. Right now, the second thing, right, what we have on an agenda is that I want to go deploy an application from a GitHub repository. That's exactly what I'm doing right now. Okay. I'm just going to deploy this application from GitHub repository, and the moment I put this application is a Java application. As I said again, a Quarkus application. I'm a Java developer, so all my examples are Java. All right. So I have a POM XML, so which means that my topology view on my OpenShift console is able to identify what are these. Okay, I can also provide advanced options like your master reference or revision, etc. But I'm going to leave them to defaults for this one. I've chosen this year, and there's a lot of other things which gets filled up, right? Fruits app, blah blah blah. And then I'm going to say deploy this as a deployment or a Knative service or a deployment config. Let's stick to deployment for now, okay? And also it says if you want to add a pipeline to this, okay? I'm just going to say yes, okay? I want a pipeline. So which basically I already have pipelines inside my OpenShift. It says that fetch the repository, build the Java application, and deploy my Java application into my OpenShift. Okay, this is going to be a pipeline. We are going to use a pipeline again. That's the reason why I chose. Last time, we just chose just to be deployment and deployed from a container image. But right now, what I'm going to do is like I'm going to fetch the application, build it, and deploy it. Okay, all at one shot at using Tecton pipelines behind the scenes. Okay, we'll come back to Tecton pipelines and other resources that's there in a moment while this build happens. And that's all we need to do, right? So what we did right now, grab my GitHub URL from there, popped it here, and then the builder images was chosen automatically to be Java because I have POM XML, so it can also have other types if you wish. And then I use JDK11 because my application is based on JDK11. It's also chosen automatically by default, and everything is done, right? I've not even filled anything in this case, right? Just one checkbox here, right? Mind it, no YAMLs yet, okay? And then click create. Obviously, click create here. That's it. And then that's going to start you a pipeline basically, right? If you see here, it says a pipeline is running. So the pipeline is started for you. I'm just going to pull this here a little bit. And then there are multiple tasks running. Don't worry, the task should be completed because I tried to cache the Maven artifacts so that it's faster. All right. If you want to go explore more on Tecton tutorial, so you can go to this URL. Obviously, we have some DevNation deep dives on this. So I've also put these URLs. I'll request Edson to put these URLs on the chat, the Tecton tutorial URL, and then you have all the things where I talk about Tecton, right? How do you create pipelines? How do you create all these stuff, right? These are more core stuff if you want to get into YAML, okay? So now no YAML, so we are not going to worry about that, okay? And also like we have a Tecton hub where you can pull the lots and lots of community driven pipelines and tasks and etc etc, okay? So this is also available for you. You can pull it up from there. Great. So my application is built, okay? I have a image pull error. That's okay because it tries to pull the image for the first time. It's not there because it's getting built right now, okay? Let's go and click on this to see what's happened. There are two task runs. Fetch repository is done. Build is happening right now, and then it's kind of going to pull this image from here and then start building it, right? So to go back to see what we are doing, right? I'm not going anywhere else, right? I'm just trying to build the application from here, try to build the application on the screen, not going anywhere, no YAMLs, nothing, right? It's even getting improved in the upcoming versions as well, right? And then adding a pipeline now, which is the usual way we do CI/CD, right? So we do CI/CD in everyday life of our production deployments. What I'm doing right now is just exactly that. I'm grabbing my GitHub repository and then copying that into my application creation. My application picks up, understands what you need. I just say there's a bunch of pipelines which is available inside. Obviously, if you click on this pipelines, you see this new Fruits app pipeline created, right? That's exactly what is running right now. We'll come back to the screen again, right? Just remember, we're going to trigger a new thing in a little bit in a few minutes time, okay? And then we got it application up and running, and then soon you should see the application getting deployed, okay? So it's pulling the application up, and then it has generated the stuff. A lot of Maven stuff is running, as I said earlier. So we're going to run from the local Maven repository here. So the Maven URL is kind of pulling the images up. So I said I should actually pull it from my Maven cache. I don't know. Unfortunately, it's not doing that stuff here. So let's go and find it out why it's not doing that. Okay. and then it's kind of deploying my application. So my application gets deployed in fraction of seconds. Let's give some time for that to deploy as well. Okay. So while that's happening, so what it also do is like we have another task where we need to deploy a database, right? So let's do that. There's a lot of options to do this. So one of the options I chose is that I have an operator backed database which I can create. So that's something which I deployed here, and then I'm going to click create. Let me call this demo database. I leave everything to default. One thing I have to change here, I just call this image as PostgreSQL. All right, click create. Okay, and just for my understanding sake, right? So this is the database which you have. We're going to create this database back here and then find it out as well. So while this also happens, let's do one more thing, right? I'm just going to do a little thing behind the scenes to make my builds faster so that you don't need to wait for these things to done, right? So let me go back and copy this thing, and all right, I just have some admin settings updated behind the scenes. I hope that picks up in the new one as well. Okay, so let's go here. How do I edit this? So for example, I want to go to my Maven thing and say edit pipeline and tell it to use my Maven mirror URL, right? So this is something which I have already. So I'm just going to tell that go use that so that my next images are much faster, right? I'll just click save. It's not going to affect anything right now. This is how I edit my pipeline, giving some parameters. So let's go and see what else is happening here, right? So it should be done. Oh, still it's pulling. Okay. So the build is still going on and on because it has to pull everything up. Okay. This is a sad thing, right? I just made sure that I cache images considering the time I have, but still it's going on, right? So let's wait for some more time to see if this happens well. Or we can do one more thing. I don't want it to take all these long, right? So let's go and cancel. Okay, I'll see if I can cancel this. Stop. Okay, and then say rerun. Let me see if it picks up right now. Okay. All right. So just making sure my Maven runs faster, right? Just interest of time. All right. So while that happens, we can also try one more thing to do this, right? I can do the same thing with Knative as well, right? My application is getting deployed here on the topology. There should be another build that is running. Let's see if it's able to pick up the Maven URLs here. So I hope it picks up. Come on. Let's see that it should log here if it's able to pick up the URL or not. All right. So if it picks up the URL, Maven URL, then the build should be faster. We can do a few more things. Scratch. It's got it. Okay. So that's good. So this is going to be run faster. So that's one thing which we did, right? What I did exactly some time back is that I have the pipeline. Okay. The pipeline basically has some parameters that we can configure. Okay. So one of the parameters for the build task, that's what I did. I went to edit pipeline and then said, I want to use my Maven mirror URL, which I have it locally on my cluster so that my build is much faster, right? Technically, I recommend this to be part of your build because you always, in an organization, we tend to have these things cut behind the scene, right? So that we used only the Nexus repository that's used for my case. I'm more, again, from a Java application perspective, all right? So we had this, so I just go and updated this so that my build is faster, all right? Perfect. So let's see what's happening to my build. I think it should be done because I ran a few tests today morning so that I cached my repositories. Let's see this. So we are good. The build is done. Okay, loading my thing, and it should be done fairly faster right now. Okay, so let's wait for a few seconds for that to complete. And then we do this. While this happens, we'll also go and deploy a Knative. How do I deploy a Knative service? It's pretty much the same thing, right? Let's go and do this. While this happens, I'll go and deploy from a GitHub. I'll choose the same one, Fruits app. Okay, the same one again. But this time I'm going to say this as, let it be there. I just say call this Knative. Okay, Knap. And all I have to do is just click on Knative, right? When I do this one, so this is going to use Knative behind the scenes and create the stuff. And rest other things I'm going to leave it to default. All right. So this is going to be my Fruits app, which is going to be a Knative service. I'm not going to use a pipeline in this case. I'm just going to use this. If you see this This is what I meant by the application grouping, right? I grouped all my fruits app together, right? I have one fruits app here. I have one fruit app here. Let me make a little submarine here as well. I can just go here, drag this. These are all funny things which you can do. Okay, so let me put this way. And this is going to do a build right now behind the scenes. There's a build happening. And let's see where we are here, right? So I hope this is picking up the... yeah, it's up my Nexus, so things should be much faster here. I think I should have done it earlier. Okay, so my Nexus is done and my application is deployed. So let's wait for some more time to be done. So my application, the second part is getting done here. So I don't know why it is slow a little bit, because it's within the cluster, but it should have been done fairly quicker. All right, so that's it. The task is done. My application is deployed here. Okay, you should see the application scrolling up. Let's click on this to see the what's happening here. So the container is getting created. All right, so and then it's running, right? My application is up and running from my pipeline. All right, so let's click on this to see what happens. Okay, again, I have the same issue. I have to allow insecure routes, so excuse me for that. And TLS termination edge. Okay, and then let me go on refresh this again, right? So, and there we go. My Quarkus app is deployed, up and running, right? I have a Swagger UI, if I remember correctly. Swagger UI. There we go. The Swagger UI is there. So I can just go click fruits. I hope this should let me make it bigger. Okay. Try it out. There we go. I got a bunch of fruits here, right, from my local database. All right. But what I want to do is so this is not what we do usually, right? So let me delete this one for a second. I'll come back to this for much clarity's sake. I'm just deleting it. I'll come back to that a bit later. So what I want to do is I have a pipeline, but whenever I push something to my repository, I want the pipelines to be triggered. Okay, that's something which I need to create. To do that, I just go here, go to my pipelines, and then click on add trigger. Okay, so there are multiple provider types. I'm going to use GitHub push. When I do something on GitHub push, I'm just going to have this. There's a bunch of variables that needs to be passed, which says that, okay, I need to use the convention like this. Okay, I'm just going to copy this one here. So the repo URL is git repo URL. So that's what I need to use. Git-repo-URL. And then I'm going to use a master revision, which is git revision. You have these variables listed here. Just need to use the variables without typo. Git revision. Okay, and rest of the other things I'm going to leave default, and then this is going to pick things up for me. Okay, so just whenever some GitHub push happens, that's going to be trigger created. Okay, click add, and if you go to the topology view, I deleted the Kubernetes service because I want some space to show this little event listener here, right? This event listener is what is going to play a big role right now. So you have a URL here. I need to grab this URL. Okay, copy link address, and then I have to go to my GitHub settings. Okay, and then go to my webhooks and edit this webhook. I'll use my security key. Okay, and then I'm going to update this thing, right? Be sure once you update this, the URL needs to be, say, application JSON. Obviously secret needs to be provided, but I'm just avoiding secret for this demo. And then click update. Okay, so when I click update webhook, what I want you to see is that here in this case, so let's go to the pipelines. I don't have any pipelines running right now, so obviously I'm going to do a last payload redeliver. Okay, that's what I'm going to try now. Just click redeliver. Yes. And the moment I see that, you see the pipeline starting here, right? This is as simple as that, right? No YAMLs, man, no YAMLs. Okay, so everything is just click. All right, I click this thing and then I connect it to my application. Obviously need to add secret. That's something which you can read about. I have all these demos in this part of workspaces and pipelines and triggers. Okay, you can go read them in detail about what's happening behind the scenes. But from a developer perspective, that's all I need to do. Obviously my application should fail now. I'll tell you a probable reason for failing is because my application needs a database, but I don't have a database. Okay, that's what the push happens right now. Okay, while that happens, I need to do one small little thing. the PostgreSQL database that I created, I need to edit. I don't. Let me do the edit like here, right? I'll edit secret this way. Okay. No need to edit using YAML. Okay. I just need to change this to username because that's something which my application expects. So I'm just changing a secret to use username. And obviously, let's see what happening to my build here. So the build is running. As you see, there's this one run which is happening right now. Obviously, my build is going to fail. So while the build is happening, like it's if there is any question that I can take, because we are 6 minutes to close, if I'm not wrong.
All right, so let's see if we have any questions here. I can see that Jaivardan has been answering some of them in the chat, but maybe I can forward them to you. So I notice here that Carol had an interesting question. So she's saying that you do understand developers do not want to use a web interface either, right? So, well, very opinionated, of course. Like I think the YAML way and the web way are very opinionated. How can developers avoid YAML and web interface as well? API driven or GitOps?
I think I would probably use a mix of both, to be honest, because even if you go to GitOps, you have a fair bit of YAML to write, right? Because you have to get your application YAMLs to be done and running, right, before you can use your YAML, right? So that is something which we need to have there. So I'll definitely use a mix of both because I use APIs to create those YAMLs, because there's a lot of JavaScript APIs right now available which can create YAMLs using drag and drop, so which can be potentially used. So you can use that, or also the GitOps, right, where you need to have some pre-baked YAMLs, right, to be done there, right? The good advantage of platforms like OpenShift is that since we don't write a YAML, it doesn't mean that I cannot get the YAML exported, right? For example, I'm taking this spot for this example. So I have a YAML here. I can just grab this and then paste it somewhere, right? So that I can just click a download so that I get a YAML here, right? Which means that you don't need to craft YAML by yourself, missing all these spaces. You already have a YAML. Just go tweak it if you want. Okay. So those are little things which you can do, which will add up to your speed of developing applications with Kubernetes. So my opinion is API plus GitOps is the best way. I think we also have a GitOps, probably another one which we can do as well, but probably we don't have a time to do GitOps as well. So now this is done. Obviously, my rolling should fail, as I said earlier. So let's click on this to see the failing container here. Obviously, let's see the container fails. Okay, there we go. So on the logs, if I go here and see, it's not able to create my database because I said earlier, I need a database. All right. So how do I do this? I already deployed a PostgreSQL database. All I have to do is just go here and drag it here, create a binding connector. This is what I call a service binding. And in a fraction of seconds, you should see your application up and running. There we go, right? My application is deployed, man. And then I go and check the logs. Obviously, it's going to go into PostgreSQL. If you see here, it's going and inserting a data into my PostgreSQL database. It is able to connect because earlier it was not able to connect because there was no database. Right now, just drag and drop, right? I've not created any YAMLs behind the scenes, just connected my app to my database. There's a specific spec. I can put the spec link on the chat or I think it's be part of your chat as well. Like you can just go Google service binding. So that's what we did here, which is integrated automatically. And then my application is up and running. Okay. So let's go see if it's coming there. Yes. I'm going to try it out again. And that's it. So my data is coming back from my PostgreSQL database, which I connected here. But what we did is that we used Event Listener to push my changes and automatically triggered my application to build the new pipeline and deploy my application. That's where you saw the failing application first, and then I connected my application just using drag and drop. All right. And that's so easy as that. So for service binding, let me go Google it for you. Service binding, I think this is the one which we use behind the scene. I think probably Jay can help me putting this link on the chat group in Kubernetes, which is building the specification so that we can bind the stuff directly like this. All right. And let's go back and check the agenda. I did this, and unfortunately, I cannot able to do Knative today because I ran out of time. Just have 2 minutes more. But I will love to see if I can quickly do that stuff. If I can get 2 more minutes from you people. Okay, let's quickly do a Knative service here. I'll just go to the container way. Quay.io, carcass tutorial. I think eventing hello is the one which I want to do. And then let me go here, Knative service, create. All right. So I should have my service up and running in fraction of seconds. I just grouped it here, unfortunately, so that's fine. So you should see a Knative service up and running here. Okay. But what I want to do is I want to make the service available for you using an event source. Okay. What is my event source is going to be, I already have a Kafka deployed. So I'm just going to use a Kafka source here and choose my bootstrap service. See, I'm not doing any YAMLs here. My topic, if I push anything to my topic, I'm going to have a my demo Knative consumer group, etc., etc. Obviously, I'll put it same in the trigger group itself, right? And this create, right? And then you should see my application here, right? So this is what the application, let me move this here. And so we'll wait for some time for this Kafka thing, the eventing thing to go down, because this is a Knative service, which means that if I'm not using it for a few seconds, the service is going to go down, okay? And as you know, Knative made less YAMLs for you, but with OpenShift Serverless, we made even less YAMLs for it. There is literally no YAML, okay? I created this, the service has gone down, but when I push something, if you remember the Kafka source, what we created, so we said from the topic to the bootstrap, if you push it to my topic, this is going to invoke this service, right? That's exactly what I'm going to do, but I have to use since Kafka doesn't have a UI, I'm just going to do it from my command line, okay? So I'm going to get into my Kafka producer behind the scenes, okay? And then I'm going to say a message called as, let me have my Kafka pod up and running behind the scenes. I just need to do a CLI way of doing stuff, okay? So give me a few seconds. It should have my Kafka pod running in a second. And then I'm just going to send a message, right? So just keep watching this window. So because I'm going to send a message like hello world kind of stuff, and we should see them up and running there, okay? So, okay, my Kafka pod is running, and I say, I thank you all for attending my session. That's what is going to be my message. The moment I say this, this guy got the message right now. Let's see if it got my thank you message to you all. Let's go there and see the resources, view logs, and let's see if it's coming the logs there. Okay, so it's got up. Okay, resume stream. Okay, you see this here? Thank you all for attending my session. That's exactly what I punched in using my CLI to send Kafka a message. The moment Kafka got the message, I was able to invoke this pod, okay? And this pod came up live and then answered my thing, okay? So that's how it happens behind the scenes. Again, we have Kafka cluster. Obviously, we have a managed Kafka. That's a different story we'll talk about a bit later. But now it's so easy that otherwise I would have to write approximately 4 to 5 YAMLs to do this connection up. But right now, I've not written any YAMLs. So I just deployed my Knative service just using my container image and then connected to a Kafka source, which I have already in my cluster, and then pushed a message to Kafka topic for this to pick it up. And it's that's easy as that, okay? Finally, I'm happy now that I was able to do these as well, okay? So now all these 32 minutes, I just ran 2 minutes over. I was just doing everything from OpenShift Web Console, what we call as ODC or OpenShift Developer Console, without writing even single line of YAML. Though I have to do a little tweak for my URL to acknowledge the HTTPS. Other than that, there was no YAMLs. And that's pretty much from my side. I hope it was useful. You enjoyed this. Back to you, Edson.
Awesome. Thank you, Kamesh, for this amazing presentation. And we had a lot of comments here on the chat. And one of the comments, Andy was mentioning about the CLI. So I know that some people prefer the web UI, some people prefer YAML. Well, maybe some people prefer YAML. But do you think that it would be possible for us to achieve the same level of features by using the CLI? Or is it limited in some way?
I don't think so. We have more power with the CLI. In fact, I think I think, but a few things still missing, right? When you create the event source, we have to use multiple CLIs. For example, if you take the Knative example, I need to create an event source. I need to deploy a Knative thing, right? Which KN is a tool which we have right now. If people are new to Knative, I encourage them go to our Knative tutorial, which you can go see where we explain this stuff. So we need to use two tutorials in this client in this case, right? One is a Knative client, so it's called as shortly called as KN. So as you see on my screen, this is the one which you need to use, where I can create triggers, I can create event sources, etc., and then I have to combine that with your service, right? In this case, if everything is Knative, I can do it everything within KNCLI. Okay, so it's absolutely possible. So KNCLI gives you all the options where I can create that stuff. Perfectly doable. But
Awesome.
still
So you
maturing.
can
We have a lot of stuffs coming in as well. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So you can be happy. You can use the web, you can use YAML, you can use CLI, and I believe that depending on the OpenShift version you're using, you also have the embedded web console, right? So you don't have to even install that on your machine.
Exactly. We get a web console, but I've not done this for this session because my goal is not to show CLI. Okay, so I've not done this. This time that I'm not against CLI, I'm a big CLI fan, but I want to show these nice features that OpenShift gives you to make your developers go much faster, right? Reach that extra mile. Okay.
Yeah, maybe we can schedule another tech talk where you'll be able to present the CLI version of the no YAML way, right?
Yeah, you will say YAML way on that case, right?
All right. And Kamesh, thank you very much again for this amazing presentation. If you're watching this video, thank you very much for your attention. We really appreciate you being here and hope to see you soon in the next DevNation offering, maybe our next Tech Talk.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Stay safe. Bye-bye.